What's the single biggest thing that you've done that you think has kind of contributed to your ability to heal?
You know what? I wouldn't even say it's a single. I would have to say like 5.
Okay.
It's like they're all on the same level. I would say grounding and earthing, especially. That completely changed my life. I mean, we got disconnected from the Earth's surface back in the 1970s when they slapped rubber sole shoes on shoes, and before then we were barefoot or walking around with conductive material like leather or something.
So grounding and earthing is just taking your shoes off and walking out inside in nature, in the grass, on the dirt.
Yes, connecting to the Earth's surface, and this is not just woo-woo. Like, this is backed by legit science.
Yeah.
There's an abundance of electrons, negative ions all over the Earth's surface. And when our bodies need that to function properly. It's 100%. Impossible to be chronically inflamed when you're grounded. So, I mean, just by doing that, connecting back with Mother Earth and nature, for me, has been extremely healing. Extremely. I mean, going through this past 4 months, like I said, I've done over 100 different modalities. But the past 4 months, it's the most natural things that have helped me through this, which is sunshine, grounding, and walking in nature and music. Like, that literally the things that kind of got me through. But yes, I would say grounding, earthing is up there. Brain training is incredible. Neurofeedback. There's another system called Neurooptimal. It's a little bit different than neurofeedback, where they're not feeding you any type of frequency. They're just basically putting a mirror up to your brain and showing it that its patterns here don't work, right here don't work. So it's fixing itself in real time with gentle pushes instead of like actually feeding you a frequency. So, brain training, I would say, is amazing. Trauma release exercise. Dr. David Berceli, he invented this exercise. You basically exhaust your psoas muscle and your body will then tremor and shake. And our bodies, through his discoveries, like, we're supposed to do this. But as we get older, it's not appropriate to sit and be scared and like shake. But if you look at a child, that's what they do. They'll sit and shake and mammals. I mean, if you look at a zebra grazing and then gets bit by a lion, he'll fall to the ground and then start violently shaking and then get right back up and start walking around, because animals in the wild don't have PTSD. So I think it's like trauma release exercise. You're getting that stuff out of your body.
Yeah, it's like ducks. They get into a fight and they shake, they shake their feathers. They shake their feathers, and then, it's just on. They just float away and everything's back to normal.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's releasing that tension.
Releasing it.
Yeah.
Can you imagine us humans, the years of tension and trauma that we've held on to?
We just hold it. Yep, for sure.
So much energy in the body.
Yep.
So, that would be tip top, because you have to, I did a ton of brain work until I really dove into this stuff and realized that our bodies, we hold so much cellular memory. Our cells remember everything. So it's like we have to get the stuff out of our bodies, because it will become physical ailments. It'll become energetic blockages. We really have to, do all the things in order to achieve, optimal status, because this stuff gets really locked in our bodies. So, trauma release exercise and lymphatic work, I would say.
You've done a brain scan?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And what did it show for you?
You know what? This is incredible. Yes. Yeah. So I got a SPECT scan with Dr. Amen. And, my brain, so I had a spot on the top of my head, and he was like, "You're impulsive, aren't you?" I'm like, "How do you know me?" He was like, "Because this place, it wasn't getting great blood flow. I had a TBI. I actually got hit with a pistol on top of my head before. And so I had a TBI here. And so he, recommended the supplements and different things. And, I'm not as impulsive anymore. But my brain, honestly, it didn't show that much abuse of drugs.
Good for you.
Yes. Yeah. So neuroplasticity is a real thing.
It's a real thing, for sure.
Yes. Back in the day when they used to have those commercials like, "This is your brain on drugs," and then they would have the eggs and they just smash. I'm like, oh, my brain is jacked up, I was like, this
alcohol and weed does do that to your brain, for sure, and it does create like the decreased blood flow that can last for life if you're consistently doing those drugs. But but doing things like neurofeedback, doing things like pressurized oxygen, or even psilocybin will create neuroplasticity. So that creates these connections between different parts of your brain that have never connected before, and so it's like you're putting your brain on steroids for a short period of time, reinstating all of these connections. But then the hyperbaric chamber is something that if you're doing that for, usually they prescribe you like 40 sessions or so, where you go into this chamber. It's pressurized oxygen. It's 4 atmospheric pressures, usually is what you get up to on a soft shell, and that will reverse all of the damage that we've had from, and people don't realize this, but just the pressurized oxygen reverses damage from alcohol, it reverses damage from weed, it reverses damage from trauma. Like you said, you got hit with a pistol. I've got concussions from football and stuff, and just a couple of years ago, some kids running at 100 miles per hour, and I'm in this blow up thing, and it's at my son's birthday party, and just slams into my head at full speed on the side. And after the brain scan showed that, it showed that there was like no blood flow happening to that side of my brain. But after the oxygen chamber, it's all healed. It's all back to normal, and it's really the only way that you can. I mean, it's one of the main ways that you can kind of get back to a healthy mind, where your brain is, it's connected, neurons are firing, neurons are connected. It breaks you out of those old mental patterns that you've talked about, where your mind takes you back to these past events. It takes you back to like these ways that we navigate reality through our minds, and certain parts of our brains are just not used. And so to reestablish those connections is one of the reasons that that this type of therapy that we've kind of talked about actually does work scientifically and gets people back to like a good, healthy mental state.
Yes. I love the hyperbaric oxygen chamber. I have a soft shell.
Me too. It's right in the next room.
I saw infrared sauna. Those are amazing.
Those are amazing too.
Sunlit too. I love that company. I love that company.
I
used to have one.
I plan on so people are probably thinking like, so where do I do this? And I think it's different for every town. Probably we've got people here in Sarasota that actually just went on my wife's podcast, and their place is called a warehouse, and it's not a warehouse, it's a warehouse, and and they've got all of these things. They do hyperbaric chamber, they've got neurofeedback, they've got all of these different modalities that you can do, and just so it's like a one-stop shop. And I don't know if that exists. I'm sure that exists, and that's starting to become more of a thing, as opposed to the doctor who just says take Adderall, as opposed to the doctor who just says, here's Percocet, go figure it out. Like the drug dealers that are not really helping. There's places like this now that are popping up all over the country that can actually help people heal and actually help people get on with their lives and live a much better quality of life that's not dependent on the drug dealers.
Right.
But where would you, how do you suggest if people are interested in kind of going down this path, like what are the steps to take to do that?
I just say micro movements create macro outcomes. If you try to overload yourself, nothing's going to work. So I say just, even just like awareness, right? Spend 5, 10, 15 minutes with yourself a day. That's so small, but so many of us don't do that, right? We don't have time. We got to get the family ready. No, you always have time. It's prioritized, right? So, in that moment of silence, talk to God, let God talk to you. In those moments of presence and awareness is where you get the wisdom, that's where you get to know who you are. And so many of us, we don't know who we are. When I was working at the mental health place, it was like a place like the Aware House. We had flotation therapy. And I remember like 80% of the people would get out within the first 5-10 minutes because sensory deprivation, now they're, still, and all they have is themselves. So many people can't sit with themselves. It's anxious, the thoughts, all these things running in the background. So even just mindfulness, start small, something easy that you can do every single day, like 5-10 minutes mindfulness, even mindfulness outside in nature, if you're able, go ground your feet, your hands to the earth's surface, and just, I say, pay all of your attention to a plant, to a tree, to something, and just, thank that nature piece that's there, giving you oxygen to breathe. Think about the energy. In my personal opinion, I feel like everything has a soul. And so trees and, plants, they don't really get our attention. We're always on our phones, we're too busy. And so when you're just sitting there and you're connecting with another soul of, in nature, there's something special about that, you know? I mean, you kind of just, it just washes the stress away, you know? And like I said, through this past 4 months, this is really what's healed me. I mean, I've literally just, every time I would find myself going into a negative loop, I'd just literally run outside and take my shoes off and put my hands on my bare feet and let the sun just wash over me. And I would just connect to a tree, connect to a piece of grass, you know, and just thank it. And, you know, gratitude washes over your body. And it's impossible to be stressed when you're grateful. So, you know, and every time you do that, you're building new neural connections, and you're building those neural connections stronger so that when, you know, if you let yourself go down a rabbit hole of negative thoughts, it's like that neural connection will then get stronger. If you break that pattern by going outside or grounding or just, you know, getting present during those moments, those neural connections are now getting stronger. So now it's becoming more automatic, you know? So it's like I always just tell people, micro movements, you know. Now, if you want to go balls to the wall, it's just great too. I mean, you could look for hyperbaric oxygen. I think that's one of the greatest things to heal the hardware, because if your hardware is having issues, your moods, your emotions, your behaviors are going to be different. I mean, I don't know if you ever heard the story of Dr. Amen's nephew, but he had a tumor on, I think, like the left frontal lobe or something, and he punched a girl, you know, he was drawing pictures of death and all this crazy stuff. And then they found out that he had that tumor, got the tumor removed, and now he's a normal kid, you know? So it could be a hardware issue. Like, I would love at some point in my life to go to prisons and scan everybody's brains and see who in here has a TBI that had made them behave in the way that they behaved,
right.
You know?
For sure.
Because it's like these systems are so unfair to me.
Yeah, there's no healing involved in the system.
No.
It's just punishment. It's a system of punishment as opposed to let's heal these people.
Yes.
And they could be healed with just simple stuff.
Yeah.
Simple stuff.
Yeah.
And like, why not have oxygen chambers within prison cells?
Thank you.
This is not a big
Neurofeedback.
investment. Yeah, exactly. So
I don't.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, I think brain scans is something that my wife and I want to eventually develop a foundation for, to be able to offer people so that they can actually see what's going on the inside. And that for us was a big turning point to go to Amen Clinic. And I think there's one in Atlanta, there's one in Miami. We went to the one in Miami, and to get your brain scan to really know like what's going on, you know, because until you get your brain scanned, you don't know what's going on. And it's easy to continue to pick up drinks and to continue to smoke weed if you don't really have a sense for what your brain looks like. But once you know what it looks like, it becomes much more difficult to want to continue to, you know, create that damage or perpetuate the damage that we're doing to ourselves. But you know, the good thing is you can heal from it whenever you choose to heal from it. You can choose to heal from it. So yeah, that's one of our kind of goals at some point, is to establish some kind of a foundation so that people have the ability to do that.
That's amazing. No, that's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that, because I feel like, you know, so many people could be in such a different place, you know? I mean, look at how my life was, and now look how my life is, you know? And it's from being, you know, exposed, or not even being exposed, but just going down the rabbit holes of these technologies and just throwing myself into them, you know? And I mean, give everybody neurofeedback or neurooptimal in prison and see what happens. Yeah. You know? I mean, these people will be totally different people.
It's not going to hurt. That's for sure. Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, they got some trauma. People have got trauma they got to deal with. You know, I know, obviously there's a couple of proven ways that work for dealing with letting go and trauma and healing and reestablishing neuroplasticity. And so scientifically, psychedelics are a way that you can do that. So I'm not suggesting we go and give all the prisoners psychedelics, but I do think that, you know, that there's some very simple things that you can do. And these hyperbaric chambers now are not that expensive anymore. You
really?
know? I mean, they used to be, you know, $20,000, you know.
They're not anymore?
More. They're like 7, 8.
Shut the front door. Seriously?
Yeah, $7-8 or something like that. Yeah. So
wow.
I mean, that's not, you know, it's money, it's real money, but I think that, you know, if you've got the choice, hey, I can sign up for 40 sessions and it's going to cost me $2,000, or I can just buy one and have it for the rest of my life. You know, maybe I consider not spending all the money on alcohol and weed anymore, and maybe I spend some of that money on a hyperbaric chamber.
Exactly. Yeah.